Back in 1984, I worked security at a large city hospital just outside of Boston. I was 22, fresh out of college, trying to make my way in a big city. I was struggling to hold down a job that didn't make me feel completely out of place. I hadn't quite caught up to the hustle and bustle of the big city yet. Anyway, I found the listing on a bulletin board at the downtown bus station. It read, "Hospital security, full-time, night shift preferred." The pay was pretty decent, and I'd always preferred the night shift anyway. I figured it'd be quieter, easier. I mean, what really happens in a hospital at night? Right? I didn't think much of it at the time. I liked being up late, still do. I applied, and to my surprise, got a call for an interview a few days later. Both sides were happy with how it went, and we set a start date. Soon enough, I got to work. On my first day, I met my supervisor. Older guy, ex-military type. Didn't say much more than he needed to. He took me around the place, showing me the rounds I'd be covering. The hospital was enormous. Not one of those gleaming glass towers. More like an old medical campus. The main structure was central, but it had all these annexes and additions grafted on over the decades. No real rhyme or reason to the architecture. Some wings were clean and modern, with beige tile and humming fluorescence, while others looked like they hadn't changed since the 40s. Green-tiled walls, fogged glass windows, heavy doors with thick handles. The kind of place that smelled faintly of antiseptic and time. They assigned me to patrol mostly the south half of the facility. That included the emergency entrance, the service elevators, and a section they simply called Wing C. Now, this was still during the day, and while my supervisor was walking me through the route, he gave me a quick look at Wing C. Emphasis on quick. He didn't seem to want to linger there long. I remember thinking right then that the place looked creepy as hell. But I was a big boy, with my first real job. I told myself to shake it off, that I'd get used to it. I was eager to prove I was a good fit. Once the tour had wrapped up, he asked if I had any questions and told me I'd be starting that same night. Night fell, and I buttoned up my new uniform. I felt proud. It was something steady, something more adult. I made my way to the hospital and clocked in early. My supervisor was still there and noticed. He gave me a short nod, approval maybe, and I headed out to begin my first patrol. I walked through the emergency unit, past the service elevators, and eventually came to Wing C. I pushed open the double swinging doors and stepped inside. Now, if there's one thing you learn quick, hospitals are never truly quiet, not even overnight. There's always something, machines humming, distant beeping, murmured voices, maybe the sound of a gurney rolling across linoleum a floor above. But Wing C, that place felt cut off. The lights overhead buzzed low and dull, casting a sickly yellow tint that made the walls look like old paper. The air felt heavier, like it hadn't moved in years. Even the floor sounded different under my boots. There were no voices, no machines beeping, just the hum above me, and my footsteps echoing loudly down the corridor. I saw a guy way down at the end, coveralls, pushing a bed. He didn't look up, didn't even seem to register I was there. I moved slower. The corridor felt like it was closing in the further I went, like the walls were creeping closer. Most doors were shut, a few hung ajar. Operating room 3, prep and storage. Inside, weathered gurneys, low-hanging lamps, old filing cabinets packed tight. Their labels faded to grey, and dust thick in the air, clinging to everything. I shut the doors quickly and started to make my way out. It was my first patrol, and already it was getting to me. I told myself it was just age, just another forgotten wing of an old hospital. But deep down, I knew better. And in hindsight, I really should have listened. When I returned to the office, there was another guard sitting in front of a bank of black and white monitors. He glanced over, clearly clocking me as the new guy. "Have a seat," he said, barely looking up. "Watch the feeds. I'm going to grab a snack." Rude, but I didn't take it personally. I had time to kill before my next round, so I sat and watched. I noticed something pretty quick. Wing C didn't get much camera coverage, just a single angle showing the double doors. That was it. When the other guard came back, Scott, I learned, I asked him about it. "Why isn't Wing C covered like the others?" He shrugged. "That's the old surgical wing, long-term storage. Overflow if the hospital ever gets slammed, which it doesn't. Not in my time anyway," he said. I nodded and made small talk for a while, asked if he did rounds like me. "Only when the soup's around," he said. "Otherwise, I stick to the monitors." I got bored pretty fast. Not much excitement in that conversation. I told him I was stepping out for a smoke. I headed out by the emergency entrance, lit a cigarette, and leaned against the wall. The night was cool, quiet. For a moment, I felt at ease. I took the last few drags of my cigarette, scuffed the butt out under my boot, went back inside, and started my second patrol. Eventually, I found myself standing in front of the double swinging doors of Wing C again. I pushed through nervously, the doors creaking as they opened. And that's where I saw him. The janitor. Caught me off guard, to be honest. I assumed I'd be the only one in that section of the hospital. He was tall and lean, with a mop in one hand and a metal bucket on wheels that let out a loud squeak every few feet. He wore a faded grey jumpsuit and an ID badge clipped to his chest, though I couldn't make out the name from where I was standing. Looked older than most of the night staff, probably late 60s. Thin white hair, sunken cheeks, worn-in face. He looked well past retirement age, but I didn't dare ask. Figured it'd be rude, just in case he only looked older than he really was. I passed him in the corridor near the old surgery prep rooms. He nodded politely and gave me a wide grin. "Evening," he said. I returned the nod. "Good evening, sir," and carried on walking. Figured he was just one of the janitors working a late shift. Nothing out of the ordinary. He started whistling, soft and tuneless, as he pushed his mop bucket further down the hall. After a few shifts, I started to find comfort in seeing him. His presence made Wing C feel less off. I'd linger a bit longer when I passed through. Maybe exchange a few more words. Nothing deep, just small talk. A nod. A grunt. Then, one night, I asked his name. He hesitated a second, then said, "My name is Terence." "Nice to meet you, Terence. I'm Matthew." He smiled faintly. "Pleasure's all mine," he said. But something didn't sit right. Terence. I turned the name over in my head. It felt off. Not the name itself, but the way he said it. Like he had to reach for it. I didn't know why it bothered me so much at the time. Maybe it was nothing. Or maybe I was overthinking it. Over the following nights, we'd cross paths now and then. Always around the same time. Same stretch of hallway. Sometimes he'd be mopping. Other times, just standing there, staring through one of the old operating room windows, like he was remembering something. One night, I saw him standing still, just staring, at the closed door of a room. I cleared my throat, trying not to startle him. He blinked, snapped out of it, then turned toward me. "Place sure is quiet tonight," he said. "Cept for them machines, always beeping somewhere." I glanced around, puzzled. "Beeping? You mean like monitors? And what do you mean quiet tonight?" It's always quiet here. He gave a slow nod. Some nights you hear 'em echoing down the corridor, he said, while scuffling away. I mean, he didn't say it to scare me or anything. He just said it like it was part of the conversation. Same as talking about the weather and such. Another night, some weeks later, again around that damned wing, I saw Terence. Same spot, same door, staring. This time, I took a mental note of the room number, 312. I did the same trick, cleared my throat so I wouldn't startle him. He turned, eyes unfocused. Then he whispered, "She's crying again." "Who's crying?" I asked. And just like that, he snapped out of it, apologized, made some excuse, picked up his mop and carried on like nothing had happened. I followed him, tried to get more out of him, asked who she was, but he just smiled that tired smile and said his mind wasn't what it used to be, that he didn't remember. Or maybe he never knew. By now, this wing of the hospital had really started to gnaw at me. Not just the usual unease. This was different. It crept in slowly, tightening around my nerves. I'd get these sudden urges to avoid the corridor entirely. That deep gut feeling, like something unseen was watching, waiting. Still, some weeks later, just before 2 a.m., same routine. I was doing my rounds, checking emergency exits, and pushing my way through the double doors into Wing C, and the moment I stepped in, I heard it. Beep, beep, beep. A heart monitor. Faint, distant. I stopped cold. Every room on that floor was empty. Of course, I knew that. No patients, no life, just dusty beds, cracked tiles, and large empty rooms. So, what the hell was beeping? I moved slowly, each step heavier than the last. The sound pulled me down the hallway like a lure. My mind was racing, tripping over itself, trying to make sense of it. As I neared room 312, the sound sharpened. Closer, clearer. My fingers brushed the door handle. And then, silence. The abruptness of it made my skin crawl. I stood there, hand frozen on the knob, not sure if I should open the door or turn and run. Then another sound caught my attention, further down the hall. A distant squeak of rubber wheels, slow, methodical. Terence. It had to be. He was probably just doing his thing, rolling his mop bucket like always. Relief hit me, and a small breath of sanity blew over me. I turned the corner quickly and walked down the hall, ready to wave him down, ask if he'd heard the beeping too. But the hallway, it was empty. I could see the double doors, all the way to the end. No bucket, no mop, no Terence. Only the faint smell of disinfectant in the air, sharp and fresh. And the floor. Bone dry. And then a loud slam exploded behind me. My heart punched into my throat as the sound tore through the corridor, shooting reverberations through the air. I rushed back the way I came, already dreading what I'd find. The door to room 312 was wide open, flung all the way back, the handle embedded in the wall, like something had thrown it open with force. I stared into the doorway. Nothing moved. But I swear, the darkness inside that room felt thicker than the rest of the hall, like I could wade through it, part it like water. I didn't care what I was supposed to do. I turned and got the hell out of there, fast. I told myself that part of my rounds was done. I checked the box and moved on. The rest of the night passed without incident. But what happened kept gnawing at me. The door, the beeping, the bucket wheels squeaking down the corridor. And the worst part? Now that I think about it, I didn't see Terence that night. And suddenly I can't shake the idea. Was that the beeping he warned me about? And what the hell was room 312 all about? I hadn't seen him for a few nights now, and I started to worry. So I began asking around. Thinking about it now, no one else on staff ever mentioned Terence. When I brought him up to another guard named Ron, he just shrugged and said, "I don't think any of the night crew are assigned to Wing C, janitorial included." He said they usually cleaned the active floors, where there were actual patients and messes to deal with. That got me curious. So on my next night off, I came in early and stopped by the staff lounge, flipped through the janitor shift logs. Nothing. No one named Terence listed. Not on nights. Not in Wing C. Nothing at all. I didn't know what to make of it. So I asked one of the cleaning ladies during her smoke break outside the ambulance bay. Old guy, grey jumpsuit, squeaky mop bucket. She looked at me funny. Honey, the only old janitor we had like that died years ago. Terence something. His heart gave out, poor thing. Happened during his shift. Happened a long time ago, though. Before my time. I thought she was messing with me. I really did. Until I asked when it happened. She took a drag, squinted at me. I think it was in Wing C, back when it was still open. Early 70s, maybe. My skin went cold. Who or what was I having conversations with all these weeks? Was it just the effects of this vacant, eerie wing getting under my skin? Some nights, sure. I'd been tired, worn down from the shifts. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. But no, it couldn't be. What about those sounds? The beeping from room 312. The door slamming open with that terrifying force. Those weren't figments of my imagination. They were real. So if those things were real, then what was I seeing? Was Terence some kind of ghost? Or just a shadow born from my own exhaustion and the loneliness of this place? I asked for a few nights off, and thankfully it was granted. I thought some rest would clear my head, shake whatever weird spell that place had over me. When I returned to work, I felt energized, still apprehensive, but ready. I told myself I'd imagined most of it, just exhaustion, stress, that kind of thing. But of course, it didn't take long before shit hit the fan. Always Wing C. That damned place. This time would be the last. I swear it. As I approached the wing, I could hear something. Noise, violent and loud. It sounded like an angry bull was tearing through the place. Equipment crashing, beds screeching against the floor, loud bangs echoing down the hall like someone was flipping entire rooms upside down. I quickly radioed over to the security office and called for backup. Scott responded. Reluctantly. We both met at the entrance to Wing C. He looked more afraid than me. But honestly, I'd never been so thankful to not be alone. We moved in slowly, cautiously, room by room. Each one was empty, messy, but silent, until we reached room 312. The door stood wide open. Inside, it was chaos. Machines overturned, equipment scattered everywhere like it had been thrown violently. And in the corner, a figure, shadowy but solid, somehow. It didn't move, didn't flinch, just stood there. Then, slowly, it turned its head and looked straight at us. We ran, but my legs weren't even working right, like they'd turned to rubber. I kept stumbling, hitting walls. Scott had to practically drag me out. We didn't speak until we were back at the security office. The silence said more than words ever could. I quit that night. Didn't even wait for my shift to end. I called the supervisor and said I was done. No explanation, nothing. On my way out, I turned to Scott and asked, "What the hell was that?" He looked at me, pale, shaken, and said, "I don't know, man. I've never seen anything like it." Then he added, "But I've always felt weird about that wing. The guy before you quit too. He half smiled, trying to lighten the mood. This is why I stick with the monitors. I haven't stepped foot in that building since. But some nights, just as I'm drifting off to sleep, I still hear it. That tuneless whistle and the faint squeak of a mop bucket wheel just outside my apartment door.